Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Michael, and I have a website at michaelgaucher.com, and I'm also a prolific blogger and a 13-year plus veteran of C++, Linux, and open source projects, overlapping 24 years with .NET. And so one of the things that I found interesting was this entire CNBC segment that Jeff Bezos was participating in a couple of days ago. And with Jeff Bezos, he was asked about AI replacing programmers, and all of us who are in tech, we can really relate to this, where it's like, okay, Jeff Bezos is sitting there, very candid, right? He's looking very candid, and it's a good interview where he is saying that no, and this is his exact words, they are all wrong. AI will not replace programmers. And that's his statement. And he went into some detail about why that would be the case. Why I think this is so interesting is that for many that's out there, and you can verify this, Amazon has been one of the leading proponents of AI replacing programmers. In fact, they have had an edict in their company where if you was not using AI, then you was, basically headed towards the chopping block. And it was one of those things where it was like, okay, they wanted to have all of their code agentically driven, right? They wanted to have AI generate, and let's say 2 years ago, they said AI was doing what, 20-30% of their code. And then as we get closer to now, there's like AI is doing, 60-70% of our code. Well, here's what happened. A couple of weeks ago, Amazon lost a couple of tens of millions of dollars worth of revenue because their order pipeline went down. They had issues in their factory, the automated parts of their factory, fulfilling orders. So it was a total mess up in terms of a company whose foundation is e-commerce and shipping and logistics, having this huge screw up on a massive scale, where previously they had a near perfect record. And the culprit, as we all see, it's AI. And so now people are saying, they're cheering on Jeff Bezos for making this statement. But really, I think he's just pivoting so that he can just try to help his company that he founded, because he's not longer the CEO, but help the company he's founded save face and try to backstep from this over aggressive push to have AI replace programmers.
Okay. Sir?
So I actually want to pivot away from the programmers to something that we've seen an increase in over the last 2 years specifically, is personal assistants, like the AI-driven personal assistants. So is AI profitable? Some of the personal assistants are the most profitable AI we've seen for small business. But what we're actually seeing is it's cheaper for them to outsource that to India. So last year, let me double check the guy's name, Albert Sanger, I think that's how he said his name. He's actually going to jail for 20 years and being fined $700 million.
What?
Because his AI personal assistant was several hundred Indians, but he was marketing as an AI because it was cheaper to do that than actually host cloud infrastructure for the AI.
Wow. I heard about that.
Wow. He's not the first one that's happened to. There's been 3 or 4 of them over the last 2 years that have been caught doing the same thing. First guy, I can't remember his name, but he actually got 40 years for it.
And so, what's funny is that, when you mention that, yes, I think that we all can relate to the benefit AI has had for us as individuals. But that's a whole different story when we talk about scaling it up to an enterprise where they have tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, right? And so we have a couple of things out there. One, there's many university, what you call research studies that show that we haven't seen an ROI from AI at a big company level. Mark Cuban has a very famous interview on social media where he says, all that money that investors gave to OpenAI, they're not getting that money back. So, it's sad to see sometimes how many of us, and I could be guilty of this in earlier years of, latching onto the hype around this topic. I do think there's some real substantial benefit behind AI, and yes, you can make money with it. But are we seeing a wholesale boost in our economy based on AI? And I think, that the jury is still out, but I think the overall sentiment right now is it may be a lost leader.
So using AI's tooling is also another interesting concept for that, because is the AI itself profitable, or is using it as tooling profitable? So I feel like the tooling side could be more so, but it still gets to the point of like, we have 24,000 employees where I work, and they actually just changed the enterprise billing for the way they're handling calls. They're going back to tokens. So we're getting billed per API call now, opposed to what we were doing. So they're having to change the allotment on how much you can use AI per month to cut down on costs. Because what they found out when they started researching the billing changes was that the average employee using it was going about $700 per month over what they were estimating.
Okay. So to play devil's advocate, right? In regards to that, what you just said, with the Uber engineers, right, and burning through the majority of their, well, not even majority, their whole yearly token usage, right? Only 4 months into the new year. And then on the other side of that, a common theme that has been mentioned is like taking college students who are coming into the workforce, who are trying to get into cyber, who obviously have used AI in the past, right? But how do they compete and how do they compare with individuals like myself, you, and individuals like Mike, who are constantly using AI within their workflow every single day, right? Who have multiple AI models that they use, both local as well as cloud-based that they pay, and multiple paid subscriptions. Whereas the average college individual coming into this field might only be able to afford the $20 tier. Like, what would you say to on that spectrum? Because you have two sides, right?
So I think from like the student perspective, where I'm also still a student, they offer really good discounts to actually get your feet wet in both GPT and Gemini. I haven't seen a sale on Claude for students. Surprise, Anthropic being Anthropic. But I think getting like the student discount, I think I got one for Gemini at one point that was $20 for Pro for a year. So,
Sweet.
I mean,
So Gemini Pro?
Yeah, for a full year, because I'm still on that year currently. So they're making it accessible. So I don't think that it's as much trying to get your feet wet as accessible as it has become. Because you even have your free chat you can do. You're just limited.
How do you think that compares with, say, Google Ultra, both 100 and 200 versus the Pro? Like, and then not just being able to have those resources, but to like the individuals who are using these resources every day in the field, right? Who have certain deliverables that they have to accomplish, right? So they're familiar with these tools, they know how to use them, and they have the highest tiers, right? So how are these students really, like, what can they do? Right? Like,
Well, so that takes it to a very real world example that happened like just a while back. So Disney made the news in AI, where they had a programmer, just one, and he consumed 234 million tokens in a couple of days, and so in 9 days, and so he made 460,000 requests to AI APIs. He was building this whole agentic system. He had all this stuff going on, and so he was spending a lot of money in Claude's expensive, Claude tokens. So to real world it like that and bring it back to what you're saying, yes, people can get their feet wet with AI. They can use chat-based interactions with AI. It's very interactive. It's not the same as agentic coding and agentic engineering. And so this really takes us back to something that's a little older as far as a concept. This happened before AI. You always had a division between what you would call developers or, lack of a better word, hackers, and engineers and architects, right? So many people start out, and I can only talk from the software development standpoint because that's been my study for 30 years. And that is, there's always been this movement from coder to programmer to developer to engineer. And as we moved through time, it's like, okay, we don't really want you to be a developer. We want you to be an engineer, because there's a qualitative difference in engineering when you want to know through an empirical method what is going to be the result of your activities and your efforts before you even lay down a single line of code. What are going to be the cost justifications and that sort of thing. So software development and engineering already was past that point where it was somewhat of an organic type of thing that you do, right? And so this gentleman who's spinning all these tokens, he's involved in engineering. And so those that want to be competitive, right, they have to go beyond what you might call vibe coding, where yes, you can build some things with AI, you can build a portfolio, you can swell up your GitHub, right, in a matter of days, but it's still not going to be as meaningful as if you can show that you actually understand local language models, you understand how to set them up in an engineering pipeline, set up tests to actually verify it, right? And, I think that's the gap that people have to focus on, in order to be competitive in the future.
Actually, I have a question for you where you're more on the development side. Do they still have like the old school whiteboarding software engineering, like interviews?
They do, but they've actually minimized that. In the present time, many companies, they want to focus more on you actually doing live code examples. So, for example, Elon Musk's company, for example, if you interview with Elon Musk's company, you have to use a platform called Code Signal. And what Code Signal does is it basically takes your camera that's on your laptop and it's going to watch you. It's like a proctored exam. You got to hold up your driver's license, and they're going to watch you code a very detailed or complex algorithm in real time. They're going to see how well you sweat, how well you go through the process, and basically that particular company, like many other companies, they're basically going to evaluate you using something that's similar to whiteboarding, but without them asking you questions, but where you're having to just go through that process yourself.
That makes me feel really old. I still remember my first developer interview, and it had a whiteboard.
Oh yeah, so I had did one. What year was that? That was 2009. I had interviewed with this company, and they said, if you were to recreate the software and technology platform for a Coca-Cola vending machine, how would you break that down? So we had to go into the actual network cards and break down the different layers of the application and write that out on the whiteboard and how the APIs would work and how you would model that. And they still ask those questions today, but rather than have you whiteboard that, you just have to be able to verbally articulate that using the terminology of the industry.
In regards to, okay, so let's pivot from that a little bit. But in regards to the profitability of AI as a whole, and just like all these, at first they started as like little mergers, right? And then they started ramping up a lot. And then now, like, I want to say, what do you feel like, and without bias, but like just overall from a developer standpoint, right? From a software standpoint, as of right now, what is your go-to AI?
Well, right now, my true AI is DeepSeek.
Okay.
So I use both DeepSeek and Google Gemini. So I used ChatGPT for 3 years, and I was good with it, but the quality could not keep up with where I was going because I was studying advanced prompt engineering, and I found that there's a certain level that you get that ChatGPT, it just starts to fall apart. And so that was December. So then I switched over to Claude for maybe 3 months. Claude, in my opinion, is the best AI that's out there in terms of polish, but you have session limits, and that breaks your train of thought. It breaks your flow. And you're like, I'm paying for this AI, and you're just going to tell me a 5-hour timeout? Oh, no, man, I just can't do that. And so I said, okay, Claude, I like you, but I'm going to migrate all my stuff over to Google Gemini. And so the reason why I went with Google Gemini as my paid AI is because of the 1 million token context window. And I use projects, and I have these advanced prompts, and I like to keep all my chats organized, and I like to have these automations that's built in there, right? But there is no AI that I found that is as good as DeepSeek. DeepSeek doesn't have all the features. It will not have, it's stateless. It doesn't have a persistent prompt platform, right? Every chat session is brand new. So it's like you get it all done in that chat session. And so you don't have reusable templates that you can use like you can with Gemini. So if I had to choose, if I could get all of those features from Gemini in terms of like organization into DeepSeek, I would just use DeepSeek all day long.
Sir, what about you? What's your go-to?
I think probably the best that I've used is Claude's Opus. The model for what it has for the context window, but you end up with the 5-hour timeout unless you open up your wallet. At GPT, I ran into a very similar issue. Once you get so far with prompt engineering or you get incredibly technical, if you don't go into the O3 research model, which you end up with a timeout as well, it gets really bad really fast, actually. Gemini's context window is fantastic, but the issue I run into Gemini is it's not nearly as technical as Claude is.
That's right.
So some of the things that I use it for currently is like debugging the CSI logs. Because if I get an error when you're pushing something to Arduino, it's absolutely terrible, then that helps you scan through it very well. So probably Claude's the one that I use the most currently. But something I haven't used DeepSeek, so I'm curious, can you create memory files? So something I do to bypass the my monitors go off. Something I bypass the context windows, I generate live memory files so that it creates context of everything that I've done so that it's not reading from a chat history that's just summarized. You actually get details. That way I can copy that into the next chat and it has full context. Have you tried that with DeepSeek? Curious.
I do, and that's one of the ways I port some of the most important findings from DeepSeek over to Gemini. So that's one of my tricks, right? Is I actually use DeepSeek to control the other AIs. So, and I use a technique like that because the thing is, the automations that I set up in Gemini or Claude or whatever, they're convenient. But the problem is like you say, even Google, it's like it just doesn't have the depth sometimes. And you can tell if you have enough experience, you can tell you're just like, okay, that's not actually everything that this output should have in it. And so I asked DeepSeek, I researched that's like, why is DeepSeek so qualitatively different? And one of the reasons why is that it is specifically trained on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. That's like its core foundation. And it's trained on all of these bodies of work from all over the world. There are books published that, let's say, ChatGPT, Claude, and Google does not have access to, private libraries that DeepSeek was trained on, that gives it a much more much broader range and versatility that shows up in how. So again, this is artificial intelligence. It's not actual intelligence, but in terms of the mimicry of intelligence, in terms of following patterns, DeepSeek does that exceptionally well.
I think that actually loops back around to what we were talking about earlier with newer people coming into the field. It emphasizes that, as development as an example, you have to understand what your code's doing, even if you're using the AI, because it's like you said, you don't realize that there's technical stuff missing if you don't understand it.
That's right. Also pertinent to that, and this is actually a deeper conversation. I'll just touch on it very lightly, right? Because we can go down a deep rabbit hole with what I'm about to say. And that is...
Wait, are you about to say Tiananmen Square?
No, but no. And that is one of the downsides of DeepSeek, is that if you talk to it about political stuff, it will get more slanted there. It's programmed to, it's very slanted there. And it has a tendency to emphasize the powers that be, no matter where they are. But the thing of it is that in the use of AI today, see, when us as technical professionals, because we're human beings, we have an aspect of ourselves that's very creative. We can synthesize things in a much broader dimensionality than, let's say, AI. Okay. So what that means is that if I'm using it for coding, my best use of AI is going to be coding that, one, it can understand, right? So nothing on the bleeding edge. If you want AI to help you do bleeding edge coding, I'm sorry, this isn't the time for that. Okay. So that means that whatever instructions you give it, right, they need to be instructions that are closely held to what either the standard practice is today or what it was maybe a few years ago that's well established. Because if you try to go like to like the next level in engineering or architecture or whatever, it's not going to follow very well. Also, if you're trying to use languages, computer programming languages that you don't understand fully yet, right? So you want the AI to translate from, let's say, Python to C++, but you don't have a background in C++. You're going to be in a world of hurt trying to actually maintain that solution without a real background in that language. So that's one of the things you'd have to watch for.
Especially when you account for drift. If you continue to use it for transferring, drift will put you in a very bad place.
That's right.
So before I forget this, I keep when you're talking about DeepSeek, the thing that keeps coming to my mind is Tails, the OS, right? Like, because you said it's like stateless, right? Like it's, I wonder like how many folks have like actually implemented that into their attack flow, right? Say you have a Tail OS, right, as your operating system, and you lean to DeepSeek, and then you can run through like, I don't know, Hermes or something like that, and just start attacking shit. Whether you're using droplets or what have you, just like, I wonder how many people are actually utilizing it for that purpose, right? Because and obviously this would be in more illicit areas, more on the black hat side, but just thinking about that, right? Because like when you spoke to DeepSeek, that was the first thing I was saying. How can I implement this with Tails and some other?
And as you was describing that, right, Tails OS, and for those that don't know, Tails OS is a Linux distribution that in many respects can run, if you configure it right, it can even run without a hard drive. You can run it just right off the USB, and you can do all kinds of, cybersecurity, hackerish, penetration testing, infiltration type of things using that as a baseline. The issue that I would see is one that would benefit us who want to stay secure for now from such a thing, is that, again, our earlier conversation that we had offline about running local LLMs, right, where you need these resources. Now, you can buy like a what you would call a NUC style box for maybe $500 with an AMD Ryzen, a suitable AMD Ryzen CPU and a discrete graphics card. and you could run a local LLM on that. But you're still going to be limited, very limited in the scope of what that LLM will be able to do. My classic understanding of what you would do with something like Tails is where you're running it either on a USB flash drive somewhere, right? Where you want to plug it into maybe an air gap network or something, you know, of that nature. Or maybe you do have it on a gaming computer. I think having it on a gaming computer might be the closest that you could get to that. But then you're also looking at a very customized version of Tails to do that, so that you'd have that local LLM model built into it, which is entirely possible. The thing of it is, though, is you're going to need significant resource in order to pull that off. You're going to need 64 gigabytes of RAM. You're going to need a 4000 or 5000 series RTX card in order to pull that off. There are techniques to run it in CPU, but that's a quantitized model that's not going to give you the depth that you're going to be able to get from the full DeepSeek. Because the DeepSeek that you're running on the internet, that's using the full 1.9 trillion parameter, you know, with about 4.9 billion active, you know. You're not going to get that on a laptop. You know, you need server level equipment or close to it in order to do that fully on a computer.
I think you would have to set up some of the dedicated AI equipment for $4,000 or $5,000 and start linking those together with like the EXO libraries so that they share computing. And then you'd have to have your Tails configured to hit that from whatever you're working it on. Because I think, especially like pen testing, speed's important if you're doing something illegal so that you can clear and get out.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, waiting 45 seconds per prompt is not going to cut it.
That's correct.
So say if it's you have something hosted, right? But you're just using Tails to connect to that. But you're utilizing Tails to connect to that because obviously you don't want to track. You're leveraging that AI component wherever it may be, wherever you have it hosted at, but you're leveraging through the Tails OS, and then you have another agent that's actually making the commands back and forth, pushing it. Like, so I'm trying to think, how would you do something, or like, how common is that?
So here's how you could do that, really, realistically, is you would have to take one more step beyond someone who's either using AI in a chat interactive way, someone who is just using local language models. You'd have to take one more step, and that is you would have to get into the nitty-gritty of training your own AI model so that it is much more narrowed to that problem space that you're addressing. And then you would start to see a ramp up in performance, so that your prompts would come back in a few seconds under that. So, you know, and that's one of the benefits of using DeepSeek in that case as a baseline, because it has what's called a mixture of experts architecture. It was actually one of the first to do that. And so then you could actually use that and then train it down so that it's narrowed down to just your cybersecurity problem space.
Okay.
So there's an Exos library that lets you basically turn your AI model almost into a Kubernetes cluster, so that you take one large LLM and you split it down into specialized section across multiple devices. So what you do is you do that with DeepSeek, and then you train it on something like Claude Red, which is like the offensive up for Claude.
Yeah.
So you just create a workflow that ingests the training that you set up for it beforehand each time that you end up resetting the model where it's stateless. So it's possible. It's just be expensive.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I bring that up is because I've been looking into what they say is Flipper 1 would be, right? It'd basically be a mobile Linux box, right? You can hook it up to a monitor, you can attach a keyboard to USB, blase. So if you're able to do all this, what's stopping an individual from using something as small as that to actually really cause some damage, right? When you start, and it actually has a couple of features where you can like plug into AI or something like I didn't read all the way too much into it, but they did have capabilities where you can inject AI in some way, some form or fashion. So I'm thinking like, how much more does this one device actually level the playing field when it comes to things like that?
So I think it was last year. I actually saw a command deck that was, smaller than my microphone, and basically the guy had it set up to hit an AWS workspace. The only thing that he was doing was pulling the telemetry data and everything in through the device. So pulling the Wi-Fi signal, all the processing was happening on AWS.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
But
exactly.
you can get much smaller than the Flipper one's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
So
But I'm just saying, when you have things that small, right? And then like you have operating systems like Tails and stuff like that, like I'm just trying to think through like how drastically this stuff is going to change and how fast it's going to change, right?
Well, I am hoping that it will. I wrote a controversial article many years ago where I was like, and this was back during the time where, there was some debate even in Congress about hackers and about hacking into systems, right? This was before, cybersecurity really rose up, right? And my point of view was, hacking is a good thing because we want to make our systems stronger, because you've had corporations in the past that distributed operating systems, and they try to discourage hacking. They try to discourage white hats, all of that, right? This was before bug bounties, right? And so they wanted to make it a crime to hack computers, to do exploit research even, right? So it's like, but if you flip that and you say, okay, if we find these exploits and we do have a climate where there are more vulnerabilities discovered and disclosed, in the end, that just makes the technology stronger. That makes it
100%.
better, right? And so, a lot of us, we get tired of systems that have this fragility to them. And a lot of that fragility is due to bad architecture, bad engineering, bad implementation. And that's where cybersecurity, in the direction that you're talking about, that's where it serves a huge civil good, because in the end, we get those super robust Linux and Unix systems that we all want.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of like where I'm at with it. You got to look at it from the most drastic lens, right? Because that's how you're going to get attacked. That's how it's going to hurt you the most. Not saying that MGM and everything didn't get hit by a basic, like, a non type of technical attack, but just in general, like being able to have all these components, having all the software that can do all this stuff, and basically allow us to not only just strengthen the infrastructure, but just our key components, as well as the individuals that are entrusted to defend these components.
I think like the speed of improvement, it's not really like a bell curve. What you see with like the improvements in history, it's goes up and then it kind of plateaus until something's discovered, and then it skyrockets again until another plateau.
That's right.
And as far as security specifically goes, I don't think you can ever patch the human. So the major vulnerability is always going to be there.
That's right.
I don't know that that's going to create as much of the threat landscape as you would imagine.
So
I feel like your two most dangerous things are always going to be a person and then the 0 day.
Right. So with that being said, if AI is more and more as it becomes ingrained within the architecture, like, yes, the human element's always going to be the weakest link, regardless, right? But how do you see, or do you foresee AI actually playing more of a internal role within the system to kind of prevent from human error?
Yeah, I can't see that at this point.
Right.
I can't see, because I think there are too many pieces for the industry to wrap their hands around at this point, right? like we were talking about the earlier conversation on profitability, right? So you're going to run into a situation in the near future. This is being projected by various analysts, business analysts, where companies are going to start asking that question, where's our return on investment for these data centers, for all of this, right? So, this is the one statement that the researchers definitely fear: another AI winter, right?
Mhm.
Because if this happens, we might enter the fourth AI winter that we've had since we've had information technology. So, and then you had, more to your point, like efforts like Microsoft Recall. Remember Microsoft Recall, where it is, there's just, it's like we haven't found that balance yet. And then we still haven't resolved, are we going to really fully embrace as an industry things like vibe coding, right? That's still on the table. But you then have the other side that says, okay, if you do all this vibe coding, you're going to have to do all this vibe cleanup later on. You're going to have a whole bunch of slop. You're going to have a whole bunch of, because, and I will admit, I am on that side where it's like, yeah, you're going to build all of these systems faster. Even if you don't have a software engineering background, you're just going to build it. You're going to prompt it in anti-gravity 2.0. I don't know if you've seen the demo yet. Yeah. I mean, you could build a whole web front end. It looks slicker than anything I can do. And I have 30 years of experience, it's like, bam, wow, that's awesome. But then when you actually put it in production, it's like, okay, you got this problem, that problem. Lovable is having that right now. Lovable app sounds great. I can sign up for Lovable .app, whatever, and I can have an app, right? But not really. And you got all of your security issues, you got all of your reliability issues, so on and so forth.
Connection issues.
So it's too much on shaky ground for us to all collectively trust it enough with that, right? And so, I think as a diagnostic tool where you can give it a screenshot, it works. Where you can give it error messages, it does work. But to do that consistently day after day and do that proactively with operating systems themselves, it's not quite there yet, because there's a hard limit there between known errors and, to borrow a term from cybersecurity, 0-day errors, right? Errors that the AI and no other human has even seen. Because when you get into the Linux kernel, doing actual kernel coding, coding the actual APIs for the operating systems, that's a level of coding that there is no significant data training set for, right? That's stuff that's just happening bleeding edge, and there's not even training courses on how to really be a real Linux kernel developer, a Mac OS kernel developer, a Windows OS kernel developer, right? And so it can't proactively do that, because all of that is still arcane black art within those corporations.
And I think like on a enterprise systems level, you're never going to be able to account for everything that a person could do and try to stop that in real time. Like the computational power behind that would be unfathomable.
The permutations.
Yeah, I think that, as he said, log analysis, you could do that, so you could clean up after the person, but that's after the damage is done. But maybe I'm small-minded, but I don't see a world in which we'll get to the point anytime soon of preventing it.
Well, it might not prevent it, but like I can see individuals trying to push some type of software that says like, hey, this helps alleviate this friction point, A, B, and C, right? But the implementation part of it, I think, would be very not only just very intrusive, but like I don't see it. But hey, again, devil's advocate. I want to get that other perspective. If you even think it's possible, right? Sir, you look like you had something else that you wanted to talk about earlier. I don't know if we touched on that. I thought we just pivoted straight to.
I have no idea. I'm down that AI rabbit hole now.
Oh man, there you go. Let's see. I mean, we can continue to go down this rabbit hole. But I know you did say you had one other one that kind of
It was
sparked your
either
interest.
the former U.S. executives pleading guilty to aiding support scammers.
Oh, I think it was that one. Yeah.
I was about to say, and the other one was if you wanted to focus more on newer people coming into security, or even just IT in general. Have you ever failed a cert exam, and how do you deal with that?
That was the other one. All right. What do I need to learn to get application security? Which degrees and certs? Oh, that's a totally different one. I did want to ask real quick, Michael, from the point when you first started to midway to, just last year with B-Sides Nashville, right? What are some of the things that you saw that you kind of were like, oh, this is new, versus like, okay, this is, your typical conference type of thing?
I gotta be honest. It has not changed in over 30 years.
Okay.
It's still the same. So conferences just generally have, and it's just the way humans communicate. They have a certain format to them, right? And it's like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
100%,
and it works. And so all the way to Comdex. I don't know if you're familiar with the conference they called Comdex, but there used to be this major industry conference called Comdex, and you'd have keynote speakers like Bill Gates and Larry Ellison, and I got to attend those and I see Larry Ellison in person, when he was younger and more svelte, and he had that nice gray suit that looked like his Oracle logo. But yeah, they're exactly the same. But it's really just about having that rallying point for people to get together and see new ideas and see what others have done. And actually it's not just that it hasn't changed in over 30 years, but we can go back to how scientists in Britain, they had conferences in very much the same format. So it's just the way humans communicate. And I think it's one of the most effective ways. And I think that we have to work to preserve that, because videos online are great, like in social media and YouTube and Coursera and all these other things. But you still got to have people get together and talk. And that's how things actually grow.
Synergy. Yeah, definitely. Sir, what about you? In your process of going to different conferences throughout the years, like what are some of the key takeaways from your perspective?
I agree 100%. I think the in-person aspect has to be preserved. My first conference was like 10-ish years ago. It was a Cisco conference, and then started going to security conferences 3 years ago. Something I've noticed is when people start getting together, especially in the security community, things start getting broken that you didn't think would be broke. Like first space, I watched a group of people hack the firmware on a vape pen.
Nice.
It's just, I think new techniques get discovered that way when you start brainstorming in a relaxed environment.
Oh yeah,
it's not something you're gonna get over video.
A whole lot of googly eyes, stickers, and a whole lot of hackery.
Emojis. Can't forget the emojis.
Oh yeah, got to do the emojis. So to the point of what was it? We kind of jumped away from that. So the other one was individuals. What was it coming into the? What was the last one that you were talking about?
Yeah, new people coming into the field and just IT in general.
Mm-hmm.
The post was, have you ever failed a cert exam, and how do you deal with it?
So have you ever failed a cyber exam, and how did you deal with it?
A certification exam. So it doesn't have to be cyber specifically. It could be
just a cert in general.
CCNA.
So IT, cyber, just okay, across the board. So
that was advice somebody was asking.
Yeah, so I got some Oracle certifications last year, October.
Was that when they were doing the what you call it rounds?
The waste to certification. Nice. And so I I really went into it, and I came away with 4 certifications, but I had to take certification exams in order to get certified. And one of them, I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, I actually bummed it the first time, and I only had another try to do it. So, it didn't really affect me, but I generally don't fail tests, but that was one of the few times where the material was new enough to me, Oracle Cloud, where, yeah, it was a little challenging, but, I pushed through it.
I would say the PJPT for me was I like the first 3 times I took that test, I failed that test. And the issue was I was thinking way too in the weeds, right? Like just ridiculously in the weeds. I think, obviously everybody tests different. But one thing that test did do for me was to understand really not just the material and content, but the context that the individual or individuals or the body, whoever is producing this material, is really trying to portray. And how that aligns, I think, is one of the key things that I learned from that. And it's helped me a lot going through these different certs, just everything from note taking, from how I'm studying, from the overall exam, like what I do before the exam. Like before it was more just like whatever, about to take the exam, probably won't sleep that night, too anxious. Now I make sure like I go to sleep at 10. I make sure I'm rested. I make sure I eat. I make sure my mind's right. Just small little fixes that
Right.
make a big difference long term. Sir, what about you? You failed exam?
I failed one exam, and that was CCNA the first time I took it. Before they combined it with CCENT. I think the proper way to take an exam for me anyway, or study for it, is the important part. If you drill in, like the reinforce why you're doing something, see if you can get hands-on with it, understand the reasoning behind it, it makes the exam easier, to me at least. So if you have a foundational understanding of what you're about to test for, it just comes off as easier. But I feel like most people just try to get through the study material and then take the exam. And I think the few people that I've talked to that have done PJPT, for example, I know 3 people that have failed it the first time. And I think the thing behind that is most of them, not saying you specifically, because I know you've probably did not go this route, they rushed through the personal ethical hacking course and then immediately tested instead of doing the labs and trying to understand, why am I following this attack pattern? Why am I looking at LDAP? And I think
is this for the PJPT or PNPT?
PJPT.
Okay.
I think you're the only person I know that's taken PNPT.
Okay. Yeah. So that, yeah, I know a lot of people who did that as well, and I don't want to say it's because I don't know why they did it that way, but I like to think that maybe they were just thinking because it's internal. I'm dropped on the network. It shouldn't be that difficult. I understand the core concepts. I have this tooling. It's a junior cert. It shouldn't be that. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to do the fucking labs, right? It's just like if you were you want to make sure that you can maintain your firearm, right? You got to go to the range, right? And if for longevity of the firearm, you got to make sure you clean it, right? You can't just shoot year in, year out and never clean it. I mean, like it's just proper upkeep and understanding what you're doing, what you're going into, and the material, right? So yeah, definitely want to hit those ranges. You definitely want to take all the course material and not just go through what was it? Practical ethical. What was the yeah.
Practical ethical hacking, PEH.
Yeah, PH, yeah. God, that feels like years ago. But yeah, no, I hated that damn cert, man. PJPT was good. I passed it the first time around, and I was super hyped about the PMPT, and then it came around, and again, just way too deep in the weeds, right? And I think a lot of that comes to also when you first get into this, right? Like you're trying to go the cert route, right? When you first get into this, you're thinking all this shit is extremely complicated. Like if you kind of pan out a little bit, all this stuff really, like if you take it one piece at a time and break it apart and go to like first principles, it's not really difficult. It's just it's hard to fill in gaps that you have when you're trying to I'm trying to go in. I want to be a pen tester, but you have no network experience. You don't even understand how, other than hitting the power button, turning on, moving them out. Like you don't understand how operating system works. You don't understand how the registry works. You don't understand how none of this stuff really functions. So when you got to hop to another subnet, but you don't know how to do that, like, I mean, how many times are you going to be on a network that's going to be a flat network in a real production environment? Very, very, very seldom, right? Like very seldom. So like I see these individuals who go for these courses, and I'm like, you'll have to hop, right? Oh, really? Yes. Like, it's like, or they don't understand. Like, I'm not telling you got to be a network engineer if you want to do net pen tests, right? But you have to understand how networks work. There's no way around that, because you might be able to, get away with it for a little bit, but eventually you're gonna get a fucking call from whoever is the contact person, and like, hey, your fucking guy is running X tool again, and it's fucking up our system, right? So little small things like that, understanding how these things work, I think goes a long way. And again, that also goes back to content and material and doing certain ranges and whatnot.
Yep, and I think that you're dead on with context, because that helped me with my Oracle certifications here recently, just to think more in that space, because the Oracle Cloud certifications, they're not software development, right? So these are not software development or software engineering courses. This is about cloud infrastructure, right? So that's a totally different skill set and mindset. And so when going through that, right, it just helped to think, like you said, about the context of okay, all right, so I went through this coursework and now I'm in this exam. Let's think about this context. What are they really testing for? What are they really trying to ferret out, right? But, my advantage was that I have 30 years of experience, broadly in IT. So I could draw on those experiences to fill gaps, right? On what you might call a short-term type of ordeal. But my advice, and I know people learn differently, right? And we're talking about people trying to get in for the first time. I think one of the mistakes some people make is they want to rush through this process. They want to get into a course and they want to get through a short course to get the certification so that they can get the job, right? I totally understand that. I think something that will make someone more confident starting out is if they can determine if they actually have interest in this. And if they have interest in this, play around with it before they actually get involved with some formal process. So like you're talking about working with networks, working with penetration testing, you may not actually develop the caliber of skills in those things on your own, but playing around with them and cutting your teeth on that on some level before you even go through a training regimen, I think it's going to make you as an individual more confident, because when terminology is coming at you, when the instructor is going through something, you already have a mental map in your head that's going to be more efficiently filled than somebody that's getting bum rushed with all of this brand new for the first time.
And a large portion of it too is, I think, like one of the things that I was lucky, or I am lucky, that whenever I try to learn, whenever I'm learning something, right, whenever I'm digging into something, I like to understand the first principles. That's just me naturally. I've always been like that. So like when it comes to reverse engineering, that works really good for me because I can break it all down and understand it. School didn't work for me because it was like, hey, here's the study material. This is what it is, and this is why it is. I'm like, why? Like, what are the facts behind it? Oh, it's just because that's how that works. Well, why does that work? Like, but to your point, where I see so many individuals, even people who I've mentored, and like, they're like, I want to be a red teamer. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna start applying for red team jobs. I'm like, okay, cool. So what is your specialty? Well, I'll do like network. Okay, cool. Explain to me a network. What is a network? How does it function? Right? Like, and then they're like, well, I don't really know, dude. So red teaming, right? Because it depends on where you go. There's companies that like, oh, you're a red teamer, but like you're not a red teamer. And then there's companies that actually live up to what a red teamer actually is, right? But even as a pen tester, like you can't, you have to understand these gaps, right? Now, are there people who didn't understand it and got in? Yeah, of course. Who are able to, somebody took a chance with them, brought them in and train them, right? How many times do we see nowadays where that actually happens? It doesn't really happen too often, right? Majority of the time, what companies are trying to do is they're trying to get the mid to seasoned individual for the juniors pay, right? And it's just because the market's so shit right now. But realistically, the one thing I really wanted to drill home is, because I see this so much, is take the time, right? Like, take the time to really understand all the moving parts. Because even when I was going through courses, they were giving me tools, and I would go do the same exact thing what the course said. I would even read all the information on the tool to know like what flag to use, but what the tool's broken, it doesn't even work anymore, right? And the course is live. Like, this is a new tool and it's broken. Or you're trying to run something on a system that's not x64, right? Like, or x86. So like you have to understand how all this stuff works, right? And then another thing is, like, these individuals, they're like, oh, we'll just pull down the script that I found off Rapid7. Great, right? But do you understand what it's doing, right? Because like, it can be pointing to a Linux system, but your target is a Windows box, right? And you're like, oh, this shit doesn't work. Well, you have to understand what's going on, man. You have to understand all these different variables. So again, understanding the material, taking the time. Yeah, red teaming sounds great. It sounds blurry. It sounds fun. But you got to understand how this shit works. You have to understand, because if not, you're going to be a dick. You're going to break some shit. People will be mad. And if you're not careful and you go outside the rules of engagement, your ass can be behind bars. So I think that's one of the key things that I would like to, just put out there. I don't feel like it's stressed enough. And there's really a lot of horror stories that I've heard early on in my career, and even still to this day, of individuals, seasoned people, mid people, and even rooks who have come in, went off scope, and 9 times out of 10 didn't have that get out of jail free card, right? So I want to say that.
And people watching this right now, in 2020, May 2026, they may be asking themselves, why should I follow computer science or cybersecurity when AI is going to take all of our jobs, right? Because that's what you hear. And there are companies that are laying off tens of thousands of people. We hear it all the time. Meta just laid off 8,000 people, right? And because either AI can replace them, or AI is used as justification to lay people off and remove them. And so people are going to ask, okay, this is a great conversation. You want us to get into the industry. You want to encourage us and all of this, but why should I even bother about this? Because AI is not fully baked to the way that they're saying, and you're still going to need these fundamental skills in order to either, one, operate the AI, or clean up when AI can't meet the requirements.
AI is a tool, not a replacement.
Yeah, I mean, and then also, like, what is the AI connecting to? Fucking computer. So like, as in it, like, what is it connecting to? Like, it's a computer, right? So like, yeah, I feel like it's the Salem witch trials, right, all over again. Or even more closer to heart, 2000. Right, where it's like, oh, it's the end of the world, all this and that. It's like, man, look, at the end of the day, even when we went through all these different cycles and we started getting all this new technology, it's just changed how we did our workflow, how we conducted our workflow. It didn't really, I mean, yes, people lost their jobs, right? But it also opened up all these new jobs, right? Like, and I think that's the major key thing that people are forgetting. Some of the younger people might not have been around long enough to see one of these, scenarios, right? But at the end of the day, like, I don't see it becoming this overarching, Terminator take over the world type thing. I mean, like, even like the was it the mythos, whatever.
Yep, mythos. Mhm.
The amount of computing power that was utilized to do that, to find what it was like 20-year-old, like, come on, man, like, what? That's what we're utilizing this for. Like, it's, what type of threat actor has the capability to even, or the hardware to do that? And I guarantee you they're not trying to find 20-year-old fucking bugs if they did, right? Just saying. But
Hot take. AI is replacing the employee and Boston Dynamics replacing the human.
there you go. There you go. I mean, yeah, I see it so much. It really bothers me. But one thing I will say in regards to individuals who are trying that are curious, right, or want to join, I do want to say, like, again, take your time, right? Don't think, hey, I have to jump into cyber, right? Go get a help desk job. It will make you hate life, but it will teach you grit. It will teach you patience. It will teach you the inner workings of the IT infrastructure, the things that you need to understand to move to that next level. Because, I mean, how many times have we heard this? Oh, I need what was it, an entry-level cybersecurity job?
No such thing.
Where does that even exist? Entry level? I mean, to my understanding, and I didn't go to school, so I might be wrong, but entry level is like an entry level, right? Like, help desk is an entry level position, right? A security analyst, I do not believe is a entry level position, because there's subcomponents, there's sub positions under that you need to have to really do your job. Even if you're breaking it down like a SOC analyst, right? And even the lowest tier, right? An individual who basically just triages it up, they still have to understand what the fuck they're looking at, right? The EDR is only going to do so much. They have to understand what they're looking at. Mm-hmm. So again, if you're starting out, or you're curious, or you're already in college and you're like looking to get into the workforce, like, again, don't frown upon the tech job, because you can always pivot from there. And a lot of these companies have their internal SOC team, they have their internal red team or pen test, and you brush shoulders with them, do a good job, and you can move up internally. People love hiring internally. Outside of that, get you a network, build you a portfolio, start doing CTFs. Everybody says they do Hack the Box. Everybody says that. That's what everybody says. What are you doing to stand out? I think Hack the Box is good. I love Hack the Box. But I think realistically, building out a portfolio, showing that somebody can give you a product, right, or an idea, and you can take said product or idea and push it to market. Because essentially, that is what you're going to be doing when you get hired by one of these companies, right? You're working with the engineering team, you're working with the product team, and you're taking these different variables, these different ideas, and you're pushing them to market, right? Mm-hmm. Through whatever means, depending on what your title is. But that's the key thing. Can you do that? All this other stuff can be learned. All this other stuff can be trained. That and soft skills. Soft skills, being able to speak to the business side of the house, being able to speak to the product side, the finance side, like, how do you articulate that to the point where just don't, oh yeah, I'll get root access on your shit. Okay. What does that matter? They don't care about that shit. The bottom line is, like, hey, this right here, the level that it takes to execute this is 0. A fucking scrub can do this. And once they do this, this is what's going to happen. All your client data, all the bank information is gone. And they can lock your ass out of your own database. That is going to speak to them a lot greater than, yeah, I just pwned your fucking system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for everybody who does want to do pen testing and all that stuff, just understand there's a lot of paperwork that goes with it. Right. So it's not all, rainbows and teddy bears. There's a lot of documentation. There's you got to speak to individuals, and you got to talk to them when you're talking about their network. You got to talk to them like you're talking about their kid, right? You have to have some verbal judo. You have to be articulate, and you have to really be able to not only speak to your work, but really know what the hell you're talking about, right? Because everybody's not a business person, right? The engineers, like some people will know a lot more than you do, especially when you first start off. So just making sure that you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and understand, like, man, imposter syndrome is real, and you can always get better. And I think those are some key things that help me and drive me to remain hungry and just avoid burnout, because there's going to be a lot of bullshit. So get ready for the bullshit.
So, to touch on two things there about the paperwork, to put it into perspective, the entry-level cert, the PJPT, my report was 60 pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just let that sink in. 60 pages for an entry-level cert report.
Good.
That's after you do the actual pen test itself.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what it is. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, when I go through like red team stuff or ILT stuff, and I'm looking through it for the job or whatnot, some of this shit's 200, 300, 400, 500 pages, right?
Yep.
Like,
you
so
gotta have those details.
Get ready for that. Get ready. And granted, depending on the test, some of it might be a little bit more graphical, but don't get it twisted. It's still a shit ton of verbiage, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so, like, just being realistic, I think, is the best thing, and I don't think that a lot of individuals get that. I think they get the sugar coated. It's just fun, hands on keyboard. We're hacking shit. Like,
that's right.
Real
work is not like the movies.
Yeah, it's just not, man. So just setting realistic expectations, I think, is key, and just being honest and allowing individuals to really show what they're made of, man. Like, dude, you're in every individual is in a very, very unique position, right? You're not only just going against another human being for a position, you're going against another human being with the capabilities of utilizing AI. You as well have that same capability, but if you're not at least looking at that baseline, you've already lost. You've already lost.
You need to be able to use it.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I don't want to use that because I don't like it. That's going to make you not competitive.
Yeah, of course. And I see these people where they're like, I don't want to write. I'm not going to use AI to write my resume. Okay, you won't get a job. I mean, it's that simple. Like, you just won't get the job.
In fact, they found a technique here recently where many companies are using, AI language models to evaluate resumes, right? Okay.
I think I know where you're going with this one.
So it's like, okay, so this particular company that you want to apply for, they're using Claude in some capacity to evaluate your resume. Well, they found that if you use Claude to build your resume, you actually get a several percentage jump in recognition of your resume versus candidates that did not.
We call that OSET.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I saw a couple articles actually that was based on that, and the 3-year-old, not 3-year-old, 3 years ago, me would have been like, nah, bullshit. That's bullshit. Nah, man. Again, understanding what is being leveraged to get you is the first part of the fight, right? Sun Tzu said it best: know yourself, know your enemy, the layout of the land. Fear not 1,000 battles, for victories in your favor, right? It's simple shit. Same reason why we lost the fucking Vietnam War, right? Like, I mean, come on, man. This shit is not. It's not difficult. It's simple. We make it difficult.
Yep.
Also, I wanted to touch on something that we talked about a few minutes ago. Part of it was the help desk, and part of it was Michael was talking about people coming in. Make sure you actually want to do it first. Try it out first.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I see a lot at work is where I talk to some of the help desk agents a lot when I try to update documentation or push training down for them. I see everybody wants to be in security when they come into help desk.
Mm-hmm.
So to start asking them questions, what part of security do you like? And to start telling me, like, do you have any experience? And the one that sticks out the most to me was we had a guy named Yoshi that came in. He was going to WGU for a degree. He was getting his certs. He was super excited, said that he wanted to go into pen testing. And I was like, cool, I like offensive security too.
Nice.
So started going over some offensive security stuff. And I asked him, how often do you check CVs and stuff? And he was like, I know. It's like, well, that's something you're going to have to stay on top of.
Oh,
So his whole concept of offensive security was it was a 9 to 5. You come in, you do your job, and then you leave and it's over. Whereas realistically, if you're in offensive security, that's your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
something comes out, you need to know about it.
I mean, the amount of time that we just are digging into things, right? If we went through our chat, it would shock the average student how much and how many different categories of things we are looking at, and just like the mental bandwidth just to follow that, because I mean, what 1 second we're talking about this, now we're talking about this, that's a whole different vertical, and it's all, if you're on the outside looking in, you're just like, whoa, these fucking people are nuts, right? But from the inside out, we're seeing how all these data points are connecting, right? How all these different tools are connecting. But that only comes from just day in and day out of research, of trying, of breaking, of fixing, of breaking again, like the tinkering mindset, like that old school Gen 1, Gen 2 hack mentality. Like, we just want to fuck shit up and make it better, right? Now we have to have the more corporate side of it as well, right? If you want a paycheck, but that's why we do these we go to these different hacker conferences. We go to the B-sides. We do the not so much hacker LAN parties, but like our own little after party things. That, we do crazy stuff and just get to a point where we're able to still do that, because it's not what you do your 9 to 5
right.
or your day to day. Like it's always outside of work. So yeah, another good point.
Yoshi has a happy ending though. He changed his major right before he graduated to data analytics. He was literally like 2 classes away from graduating. It killed me. I was like, why did you do that?
But again, I think it's misinformation, right? I think, and don't get me wrong, like I wanted to do this before like it was even like a thing, right? I just didn't know what it was called, right? But there was a time when obviously I stepped away from it for such a long time because of sports and what have you. And then coming back into it at the age that I came back into it, I was just like, my only real understanding of it was Mr. Robot. It's like, oh, this is like Mr. Robot. But if you look at Mr. Robot, right, what does he do? He goes to the bullshit corporate shit during the day, and he fucking, all the fuckery during night. Now, if you just take that, right, just take that, not anything else. You just take that, just at face value. That will tell you what it really is, what it's really like, minus all the the craziness, right? But I mean, that's really what you're doing. You're doing your job during the day, and you're studying, you're tinkering, you're doing whatever on your off hours every other day.
I actually partially blame that show for like all of the people coming in with associate's degrees, thinking that they're these amazing hackers, but they haven't even used Linux.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
I think that show popularized that, but it's good that it's getting like security into the mainstream.
Mhm.
But people assume that it's as easy as he made it look,
Mm.
and that part's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it. I still enjoy it, and I think to me personally, it's the most realistic so far that you're gonna get, right? Like, I mean,
Well, they actually had security analysts on staff to assist with the actual attack flows. So
yeah. I mean, there was something. I think one of the episodes I saw, like on the IP, the last, what was it? It was like, it was out of range. Like it would not be like a realistic IP address. But I mean, it's Hollywood, right? Like, you know, even like building out some shit from scratch and doing all this, like, it's not some shit that you're gonna build out in 10 fucking seconds. You know, now with AI, you might be able to do that.
Dude,
But
Occupy the Web has an entire series on like 90% of his hacks and shows you how to do them in the real world.
oh,
That
Mr.
shit's on
Robot,
YouTube for anybody.
the Mr. Robot ones.
Yeah, Occupy the Web. He's
Yeah.
got shit out there for anybody.
Well, there you go.
Hackers Your Eyes. You can learn a lot of bad shit there too.
Mm.
It's all free in a blog. And
Trigger
terrible.
alert. All right. So we have like what, 6 more minutes left. Anything that you guys want to touch on, speak to, rant about?
Blog Hack Myrtle.
Hack Myrtle, yeah. So Hack Myrtle was a concept that me and the blind hacker, who is my mentor, we had this great idea of, number one, first setting up shop in Myrtle Beach, right? And then actually spinning up a local either 1 or 2 day con mid-November, and have it be based off exactly what we've been talking about. Not so much AI, but like the students, the graduating students, continuing students, and even like individuals graduated and still trying to get in, or who are even in, you know. Because another thing I saw was even people who are in the field, right? A lot of them, like even when I started a couple years ago, they were security analysts or something of that nature, and then like I met back up with them 4 years later, and I'm like, they're still a security analyst. So like, look, man, hey, I was a security analyst before. I'm not going to talk trash, but this shit's not that damn fun, man. To be, I couldn't do it for 4 years, right? So like, what is the reason? And a lot of them just say like, I'm just not motivated. The company doesn't really push for me to do it, you know, because they want to cog in the machine, right? So I think the real purpose behind this is Hack Myrtle is to really showcase to even individuals who are in the entry level positions, who are in college, what this is really like, right? Like how this is really like how it really operates. And then who doesn't want to fucking come out to Myrtle Beach in November when no one is fucking there and it's still warm? So like, you know, that's the kind of idea behind it. And you know, also to just support the local colleges, right? The one thing that me as well as blind didn't see when we first came out here was there was not really a big tech, how would you say, a tech environment, so to speak. And the closest I believe was Charleston. Jesse, you know, Charleston.
Yeah, I would say Charleston's probably.
Yeah, so like
it'd be Charlotte outside of that, and it's much closer than Charlotte.
Yeah. We were actually going to spin up a DEF CON chapter out here, but that didn't work out too well. So whatever. So we just said, you know, let's not be associated with anything. Let's just do it ourselves, because then that way we can actually do it how we want to do it, and you know, not skip any steps or not be held down to you know, new regulations that are being pushed. I know personally, as being a co-organizer in the past for DCA 65, and then like leading up to when I moved from Knoxville to Myrtle, I was seeing the transition of how the DC groups were changing, right? The certain regulations, certain stipulations, and so I'm kind of happy it didn't work out like that. So then we just have more control, and we can actually do what we need to do and do it the right way, and be able to present something that's not only worthwhile but extremely beneficial to these group of individuals.
Mhm.
Now shout out ForSec.
Oh yeah, 4sec. So 4sec is I spun that up earlier this year. I was working with a couple individuals before that though. 4sec actually came out because I had 6 individuals. One of the individuals were actually my old boss, the person who actually got me into IT in the beginning, got him a job, and a couple other individuals got a job. And I was like, well, hey, I got a pretty good track record. In the last 6 months, I've got almost 7 people jobs in cyber, and these other individuals can't even do it. So like, I was like, let me spin something up. Let me try to like imitate that. And realistically, all 4sec is it's just I bottled up what worked for me. You know, creating a human virtual private network. You know, doing CTFs, going and volunteering at these conferences. Just networking, man, showing that, you know, you'll show up, that you're dependable, and that you'll go the extra mile, right? Like regardless, if you're sick, you still show up. I mean, unless you got COVID or something, you're gonna get somebody else sick and stay your ass at home. But you know, like it's just like I didn't see too many paths for individuals like myself. So that's why 4sec was spun up. Outside of that, looks like we got about a minute left. Anybody have?
Oh yes, Life is Star Wars. Remember that. Links that were mentioned in this discussion is going to be in the video description for anyone that's interested. Please participate in chat. It helps if you found this discussion to be worthwhile. It's going to help more people have access to that. You please like and subscribe. That's definitely vital in these days. And just understand that despite all the doom and gloom that's out here today, there's much to be optimistic about, right? We are living beings having a very human experience, and let's just continue to create, and let's defy the powers that be and show the real value and worth of the human spirit by continuing to create, to connect, and to build a better future under our own hands.
Almost every culture tells
me.
Well said.
There you go. Look, yeah. How do you go after that?
Professional.
All right. So before we close out, I do want to thank you again, Michael. You gave your intro in the beginning, but just so everybody knows, I'll go myself and then Sir, and then we'll close out. So I am Anubix, aka Richie. I am associate security researcher at Cobalt, and also the founder of 4sec. And we decided to do this to be in a more, how would you say, a lot more non-traditional way of doing this podcast. We just wanted to kind of spitball, kind of throw things out there, and you know, we're open to anybody's questions about anything or anything of that nature, but realistically just giving something uncut. So hopefully you guys like it. Other than that, I'll pass it to Sir, kind of give us a little bio real quick, and then we'll wrap up.
I'm Serd or Jesse. I'm a senior systems analyst for Eastman. I do offensive security research in my free time. I guess if you want to find anything about me, you can find me in the Dead Pixel Discord or jessebentley.com.
What's your GitHub at?
There's actually a link to it on jessebentley.com.
There you go. All right. Before we close out, I kind of want to start something, since this is the first episode. I want to start something where we close out with, you know, this or that, right? For this episode, and this goes to both of you guys as well as myself. Steve Wozniak or Steve Jobs?
Wozniak.
I'm gonna go with Steve Jobs.
All right. I got to go with my boy Wozniak, man. Interesting. But yeah, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, like, subscribe, stay tuned. If you